The 7 levels of YouTubers explained. For people that want to become YouTubers. As someone who spends every day talking with creators, I was quite surprised to see that nobody has made this format for YouTubers. So I had to ask myself, what are the 7 levels and how are they defined? But while this started out as a meme, it turned into a research project, helping you understand where you are on the spectrum and how to get to the next level.
And it has nothing to do with how long you've been on YouTube or how many videos you've uploaded. You can be 2 years in and are still stuck at level 1. Or you start right away at level 3 or 4 if you know what you're doing.
And the whole thing starts at level 0, which isn't a level at all, but it is where we all start. It is all the people that are just watching stuff, being inspired by their favorite creators, and like, wouldn't it be cool to make my own vlogs, to make my own gaming videos, to become an educational creator? You might even be starting to learn about how does YouTube work? How do you become a YouTuber, content creator? I use those words interchangeably. I don't know if that's confusing to you or if you prefer one or the other. Let me know down below. But this is the easiest stage to get out of, because all you need to do is make one video and publish it, and boom, you're a YouTuber. And that is where we get to level 1, which I call the dabbler. Those are the people who make videos here and there, but are very inconsistent. Maybe don't take it all that serious. Maybe they use it as a tool for their job, for school, whatever. But it isn't really like a career or a big ambition or anything like that yet.
The goal here is just to experiment, to try as many things and see if you actually enjoy being a YouTuber. See what parts are fun and what kind of sucks. So you can make a decision if this is a hobby for you or if you want this to be something more serious.
For most of those people I know, the biggest challenges are technical challenges. What's the right camera? What are the settings I should use? Maybe how often should I upload? All those like kind of basic, more technical kind of questions that are really easy to Google, really easy to get answers on, and really easy to move past. And when I think about their ambitions, if they do start taking it serious, it is usually the subscriber number. Looking at the subscriber growth with every video they put out and hoping to get to the 100,000 subscriber mark at some point. Somebody I know who would fall into this category for me is David. He was the very first guest on this show, still a good friend of mine, but he chose to spend more time in corporate content creation, making content for others rather than making YouTube his own career, which is a totally legit choice. But if you want to move on to level 2, let's look into what that looks like. The nascent creator. This word entered my brain through a conversation with Charles, who already broke down creators into 3 groups that are relevant to managers.
We categorize creators into 3 areas. There's established, like James Hoffman. The second group is emerging creators. The next group down, which is nascent. All 3 of those groups want to make more money or make money.
We're just going a little bit more granular here for the meme, but also because it makes a lot more sense at the end. But the nascent creator is somebody who starts to take things a little bit more serious. Maybe they are committing to consistency, uploading once a week or every other week, trying to really nail down the niche that they want to be in.
Now the goal is to build some kind of consistency and see if you can get traction. See if people actually respond with the videos that you put out, or how to tweak them a little bit to get more people to pay attention.
Asking questions like, how does the algorithm work? How do I get better retention on my videos? So I think at this stage, the technical challenges turn more into creative challenges. I think a good example for this is my buddy Parker, who visited me in Vienna a couple months ago. We've been at this for pretty much the exact same amount of time and just chose slightly different paths. But at this stage, it's really about how does YouTube actually work? And if you can figure that out, that is where level 3 comes in, the emerging creator. This is probably the stage that most people hit and where they decide to quit. Because You have all these choices now of like, should I make a newsletter? Should I start doing ads for my content? Should I hire somebody to help me on the edits? At this stage, it becomes really hard to understand what moves the needle and what doesn't. While the first two levels are really easy to see, I make something, I get views for it, where every little step has immediate returns. Level 3 is where you start seeing diminishing returns.
The goal at this stage is to make your first money, because that is the fuel that turns this from a hobby into a career.
If it is working for you, if you are seeing continuous growth, continued results from the effort you put into it, it is really tempting to jump straight from here to level 6 or 7. And that can create a lot of problems, which we'll get into in level 4. The niche king or queen. And I think level 4 is really defined by having one somewhat consistent income stream that is enough to cover your rent, your groceries, your life, but isn't really enough to grow this to something bigger, to hire people, to scale this whole thing. That is also where you might start seeing your first fans, where people start talking not just to you, but about what you do to other people. So you have like this whole word of mouth flywheel where it is not just algorithm driven, but people start sharing what you do with their friends. And I think at this level, the focus shifts from audience growth to revenue growth.
By diversifying your income and adding different revenue streams to the mix, so you don't have to rely on one thing always working. And that is where I kind of messed up. Because the way I've been able to be a full-time YouTuber for over 2 years is through public and government funding, which is quite unusual in the creator space. But let me know if you want to know more about this. It allowed me to start at level 4, and I've built all the business infrastructure and started diversifying income streams without actually having the audience to support that.
That puts into question if I'm even on the right path and if I can turn what I've done over the last 2 years into a sustainable business, which is level 5. At this stage, it is really about having a loyal, stable audience where you see no matter what you publish, the amount of people that come back are at a high level and stay at a high level. And maybe you have some crazy outliers that bring in more people, but generally you have a baseline that is consistent with everything you publish. They have a really good understanding of who they are, what their content is, and who their audience is. And I think for most of those people, that is where the big question enters their mind. Either you stay here and just make this a very healthy, sustainable business content practice, or you try to grow this into something much, much bigger. And that is the temptation to go there and to build a whole business, start selling your own coffee, start writing books, start teaching classes, something like that. But it is not the right choice for everybody. So let's look into level 6. It's the established creator. That is where you find most YouTubers. I think Macaroon on my channel is a good example, but Ali Abdal, Colin, and Samir, those kind of people that have a very solid base when it comes to their audience and their income. And at this point, you start seeing the shift from thinking about growth to longevity. How can I preserve what I have for as long as possible? And those people start to be known beyond the internet, beyond their own platforms. But that really kicks in at the final level, level 7, the celebrity creators. Emma Chamberlain, Casey Neistat, Jimmy Mr. Beast, Joe Rogan, all of those people, no matter what they start, they could start it anywhere. They have a brand that completely transcends the platform that they started. And they're known as people as a media brand, regardless of their audience size or the performance of their latest videos. At this stage, it is really becomes about the multiplications of opportunities. How can I be in more places, be seen by more people? Mr. Beast is getting tons of views on YouTube, but he's getting an Amazon show because it multiplies the opportunities he has.
You know, I had this talk with Jimmy about his Amazon show.
Yeah.
And I remember saying to him, I was like, look, this show, if it's the most successful show in the history of Amazon, will do less views than your worst performing video. What are they bringing to the table? And he had a fantastic answer. He was like, a kind of formality in my production I've never done before. They introduced me to a new audience. They forced me out of my comfort zone. And I was like, those are fantastic answers. You should do it.
That is really the stage, if you nail this, where this whole thing turns away from being a content creator, from being a YouTuber, to being a media empire, a media brand that can potentially even outlive you. And this is where a lot of people I now see coming in, where they want to start. They have money, they have resources, and they establish themselves on their platform of choice to take this as a springboard to more opportunities, which pushes down every other level and really has changed my experience of being on YouTube. So let me know if you experienced this shift, because I definitely have. But also let me know where you found yourself on the spectrum. Are you where you expected to be? Are you further ahead? Are you where you want to be? I think that is really the most important questions.
And if you want to know if shorts can get you to the next level, watch this video next.